Okay, so today we're talking about pleasure, and specifically what happens when we keep chasing it, like really chasing it, past the point of joy and straight into the land of burnout, billionaires, and piles of empty whipped cream cans. Stay with me, this is going somewhere. Whenever I see crazy headlines like the stuff about Diddy or Jeffrey Epstein or whoever, I always think, why do so many ultra-wealthy people end up becoming absolute degenerate weirdos? Why can't they just go live out their lives in relaxation at their villas and write checks to help stamp out world hunger or build free schools or something? But no. Instead, they end up running wild human trafficking cults and stuff. I mean, if I had that kind of money, I'd be so chill and helpful. My biggest indulgences would probably be a heated bidet and a big pool shaped like a mailbox. I'd go to the opera in my custom-tailored skeleton attire and call it a life well lived. We all think that we wouldn't end up psychotic, but there's actually a reason this happens. It's a thing called hedonistic adaptation. It's this sneaky little neurological mechanism where your brain gets used to pleasure. So that first little dopamine hit feels amazing. The second time, still pretty good. But over time, it takes more to feel the same amount of joy. And then more and more. And eventually, you're lying on the floor of your penthouse with a tiger in one room and a dead hooker in the other, wondering how the hell you got here. But this isn't just a billionaire problem. Hedonistic adaptation happens to all of us. Here's how it's played out in my life. As a kid, dessert was a special thing. And to me, the best part was that little blob of whipped cream on top. Just a touch, enough to make it feel magical. I remember thinking, when I grow up, I'm going to have all the whipped cream I want. Fast forward to adult me with my own can of whipped cream. Oh, it started innocent. First, I added a little extra on top. Then I replaced the blob as soon as I licked it off. Then, if no one was watching, I just covered the whole base layer of dessert with a fluffy blanket of whipped cream. Eventually, I let go of the charade of using it as a topping and sprayed the whipped cream straight into my pie hole, without the pie. No plate, no shame. And you know what? It stopped being satisfying. It got gross. I lost the magic. The very thing I had once savored and dreamed about became too much. And that, my friend, is how joy gets hijacked. Now, if you're still with me and if you're not too weirded out by the whipped cream confession, I want to share something a little more adult. So, I've had this lover for about 15 years, and we don't see each other too often. Life happens, we're in different places, and when we do connect, it's usually brief. But here's the thing. It's still pretty great. After all these years, it still feels deeply satisfying, and every time we leave each other wishing we had more time. And I think that's part of why it works. Now, compare that to a relationship I had in my early 20s when we had unlimited time, desire, and availability. The sex was voluminous, enthusiastic, intense, and over time, it got stranger. It took more and more to feel that spark of excitement. And eventually, what once felt amazing started to feel like a chore, like a performance, like trying to keep something alive with CPR and glitter. So I had to step away, in part because I didn't want to see where this strange escalating road was headed. So the lesson here isn't that whipped cream is dangerous or that you should scale back on how much sex you have. The lesson is this. Pleasure doesn't scale. Our brains weren't designed for endless indulgence. Nature didn't need to build in a stop button because for most of human history, we were lucky just to have a treat now and then. There was no danger of drowning in dopamine. But now, we're moths flying into the porch lights instead of the moonlight. We're chasing highs that used to come from small things and wondering why nothing satisfies anymore. So here's my invitation. Next time you feel that itch for more stuff, more likes, more dessert, more intensity, pause, notice it, and instead of trying to drown in excess, just see what happens when you sit with it. Sometimes that tiny ache is doing you a favor. It's preserving the joy of the real thing so that when you do get it, it still lights you up. We're not broken for wanting more, but we are responsible for noticing when more has become too much. Sometimes the thing that might save you is the blob of whipped cream that you didn't have. So if this episode sparked something for you, if you've ever felt like you're chasing satisfaction and not quite finding it, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment, share it with someone who's caught in the pleasure trap, or just sit with it quietly and let it percolate. Whatever you do, thanks for listening, and keep on shining in the dark.